Before we get into today's stories, I want to take a moment to thank today's sponsor. A lot of the stories I share always begin with something small. A strange feeling. A detail you brush off. A moment where your instincts whisper that something isn't right but you ignore it. And honestly, that's exactly how many of us treat our own health. A weird pain. A sense of stress. That voice in your head telling you that you should probably see a doctor. But you keep telling yourself, I'll deal with it tomorrow. I used to do the same thing. Until I finally stopped putting it off. That's when I used ZocDoc. ZocDoc is a free website that lets you find in-network doctors, compare them by specialty, read verified patient reviews, and book real appointments instantly. No awkward phone calls. No guessing. In many cases, you can get an appointment within just a couple of days. What I personally loved was being able to find a doctor with next-day availability and reviews that specifically mentioned actually listening to patients. Because walking into a doctor's office is already stressful enough. So if you've been putting off a visit, or you just want an easier way to find someone you can trust, head over to ZocDoc.com/MerNightmare and see what's available in your area. Now, let's get into the stories. Story 1, The Winter Camping Trip ****. Last winter, I made a decision I'll never make again. I decided to go camping alone. I brought my dog, Roscoe, and took a few days off work because I wanted to disappear for a while. I wanted silence. No people. No noise. Just trees, snow, and isolation. I loaded my truck with gear and drove deep into a state forest. The road was narrow, barely maintained, and completely covered in ice and packed snow. There were no other cars. No signs of life. After almost an hour, I parked at a small pull-off that looked like it hadn't been used in years. From there, Roscoe and I hiked another 20 minutes through deep, untouched snow until we reached a small clearing surrounded by thick trees. No footprints. No tracks. No signs that anyone else had been there recently. That's exactly what I wanted. I set up my tent, staked it down hard because the ground was frozen solid, and layered my sleeping gear for the brutal cold. Roscoe stayed close, wandering but never straying too far. After setting camp, I built a small fire and cooked dinner. The woods were unnaturally quiet. Snow absorbed sound, and everything felt muted, like the world itself was holding its breath. That's when Roscoe stood up and started barking toward the trees. At first, I wasn't worried. Deer were everywhere. I told him to relax, and after a minute, he did. But about 20 minutes later, he started barking again, this time louder. Then I heard it too. Footsteps. Slow. Crunching through the snow somewhere beyond the firelight. They stopped. Then started again. Roscoe went from barking to growling, and then suddenly went silent. That silence scared me more than the noise. I followed his stare and saw a shape at the edge of the tree line. A man stood there, half hidden in shadow, barely lit by the fire. I called out, telling him he scared me. He didn't move. Then he stepped forward just enough for me to see his face. He asked what I was doing out there that deep in the woods. His tone wasn't friendly. I told him I was just camping with my dog. He watched me for a long moment without responding. I felt something shift. Something wasn't right. I told him calmly that I was armed. He laughed. Then he said something about how rude it was to threaten him instead of inviting him to join me. And then he turned and disappeared into the trees. I stood there for a long time after that. Eventually, I put out the fire completely and crawled into my tent. Hours later, Roscoe started growling again. Footsteps. Closer this time.
They stopped right outside the tent. Whoever it was just stood there. Breathing. Shifting weight in the snow. I held my gun, hands shaking, and finally said out loud that I was armed and they needed to leave. After a few seconds, the footsteps moved away. I didn't sleep that night. At dawn, I packed everything as fast as I could and left. I've never returned to that forest. The man in the suit ****. July 4th weekend, 2025. I drove from Florida to Charleston, South Carolina to visit a close friend named Mark. The city was crowded, alive, and full of tourists. That's where we saw him. A man in a wedding suit. Perfectly clean. Perfectly pressed. Bow tie straight. Dress shoes spotless. He moved slowly. Unnaturally slow. Like he didn't belong in the rhythm of the city. We avoided him. Then we saw him again, in a completely different part of town. Then again, in a crowd where he should have been impossible to miss. No one reacted to him. People brushed past him like he wasn't there. On our last night, after a ghost tour, we saw him again, right in the middle of a moving crowd. Same slow pace. Same blank presence. He looked at us. Just for a second. Later that night, I woke up to a tap on the window. When I looked outside, I saw him at the end of the alley, turning the corner, and looking back. Mark doesn't believe in paranormal things. But even he admits something about that man wasn't human. Someone was living in my house ***. I live alone. That's why it took me too long to realize something was wrong. It started with small noises at night. A loose door handle. A phone charger unplugged. Footprints near my back door. Tapping on my bedroom door at 4 a.m. One night, I saw the outline of someone standing at the bottom of my basement stairs. I ran. Police found him hiding behind my furnace. One night, I saw the outline of someone standing at the bottom of my basement stairs. I ran. Police found him hiding behind my furnace. Food wrappers. Water bottles. A phone charger. And later, I found a photo on my phone. A picture of me sleeping,